I think you got to really sit down quietly and ask yourself what's important to you. And money is not important to most people. They think it is, but if you really ask yourself what are the values.
Welcome to Real Talk English. Hey, have you ever felt kind of lost? Like you're not sure if you're making the right calls in life?
And secondly, when you dwell on a regret, you're apt to become a victim. And that's very dangerous. People who are victims are never happy because they feel like, oh, something got in the way. They meant to change. They couldn't have a fair shot, whatever their reasons are, and they blame other people.
Well, today we're diving into a really powerful idea that might just change the way you see everything. Check this out.
Because it's easier. You know, basically it's no choice. Easy choices are usually no choice. The worst choice of all.
Easy life, hard choices. Hard life, easy choices. It's a Stoic quote, and it's pretty profound, right? This is the big idea we're unpacking today, and it comes from none other than self-made millionaire and Shark Tank legend Barbara Corcoran. She's a huge believer that the toughest decisions, well, they're the ones that lead to the absolute best life. So yeah, today we are breaking down some incredible life advice from Barbara Corcoran. I mean, this is a woman who learned her greatest lessons the hard way. So our goal is simple. Let's soak up her wisdom on success and self-worth. And while we're at it, we're going to master 10 key English words and expressions. That way, you'll sound even more confident next time you speak. All right, here's the game plan. First, we'll get her perspective on life, even at 75. Then we'll see how she literally turned failure into a fortune. After that, we'll get into her hard choice principle, and then talk about finding your authentic self. And of course, we'll wrap it all up with the final takeaways. Let's do this. Okay, first up, a millionaire's life advice. You know, you'd think someone like Barbara Corcoran, with all her success, would have everything figured out, right? But what's so cool is that even at 75, she admits she's still figuring it out. She sees life as this ongoing journey. And that brings us perfectly to our first word, navigate. When she says she's still trying to navigate life, she means she's still figuring out how to deal with all its crazy, complex situations. It's such a great way to think about it, isn't it? Life is a journey, not just a destination you arrive at. All right, let's move on to section 2, turning failure into fortune. This is where it gets really interesting. For Barbara, her biggest wins didn't just happen in spite of her failures. No, they happened because of them. Wild, right? Just listen to this story. She met her boyfriend at a diner. He gave her $1,000 to start a business together. And then 7 years later, he marries her secretary. Can you imagine? Talk about a devastating betrayal, both personally and in business. But she has this amazing way of describing a massive, embarrassing failure like that. She calls it a belly flop. You can just picture it, right? Hitting the water flat on your stomach, it stings, and yeah, everyone's watching. And that's our next expression, belly flop. It's an idiom that means a complete and, often embarrassing failure. But here's the key. For Barbara, a belly flop is never the end. It's actually a starting point. This is where her whole philosophy comes into play. She says, I learned that bad stuff happens that breaks your heart, but you could get up and get going again. She's convinced that if her boyfriend hadn't left her, she never would have built her own company, the Corcoran Group, into what it is today. The opportunity was literally hidden inside that heartbreak. And that brings us to our next word, hindsight. In hindsight, meaning when you look back on something after it happened, she can see that this awful, painful event was actually the best thing that ever happened to her career. That's the crucial lesson here, right? You often can't see the good in a struggle while you're in it. You only see it later. Okay, so this all leads us right to the core of her entire philosophy, the hard choice principle. And it's a simple idea, really. The path you choose, the easy one or the hard one, is what directly shapes the kind of life you end up living. Let's really look at this. On one side, you have the easy choices. Things like blaming other people, staying stuck where you are, just riding the ride. Those choices, they lead to a hard life. But on the other side, you've got the hard choices. Taking responsibility, making a tough turn, explaining why you're doing it. It's tough up front, for sure, but that's what leads to an easier, better life down the road. And Barbara has a strong warning here. If you're always making the easy choices, especially blaming others, you can fall into this really dangerous mindset. It's our next word, victimhood. That's when you start to see yourself as a victim, like life is just happening to you and you're powerless. So what's the opposite of victimhood? It's our next word, accountability. Taking accountability is all about accepting responsibility for your own actions. It's saying, this is my life, and I'm in charge. It's really the foundation for making those hard choices that create the future you actually want. Okay, so we get the principle, but how do we actually do it? Well, that's what Section 4 is all about, finding your authentic self. Because really, that's the whole point of making these hard choices in the first place. And she makes a really surprising point here. She says money isn't really the goal. She was just as happy when she was poor as she was when she had her own business. Her point is that a happy life is totally attainable. That's our next word. It means something you can achieve or reach without a ton of money. It's really about who you are, not what you have. And a huge piece of that puzzle is being genuine. That's our next word. It means being honest, sincere, just being your true self. Barbara's super open about this. She says early on she tried to act all fancy like other successful people she saw, but her business didn't really take off until she just decided to be herself. People can spot the real deal, you know? So when she's on Shark Tank looking for people to invest in, what's the number one thing she looks for? It's this: resilience. That's our next word. Resilience is that toughness, that ability to recover quickly from difficulties. It's an essential trait, that's another word for a quality or characteristic, that she values most. She even says it's like a jack in the box. You get pushed down, but you just pop right back up, ready to go again. Okay, so if you're feeling a bit lost right now, Barbara has 3 actual steps you can take. First, change that negative tape that's playing in your head. Second, find someone you can help. It's a great way to get out of your own head. And third, define what's important to you. These are your priorities. Our final word, meaning the things you decide are most important. Sit down and really ask yourself, beyond money, what truly matters to me? All right, let's bring it all home. Time for your final takeaways, where we'll wrap up the biggest lessons and all the great vocabulary we covered. Okay, here are all the awesome words and expressions we learned today. Navigate, belly flop, hindsight, victimhood, accountability, attainable, genuine, resilience, trait, and priorities. That's a powerful list. Try to use 1 or 2 of them in a conversation this week. And here are the biggest takeaways from Barbara's wisdom. Number 1, turn every belly flop into an opportunity. Number 2, remember that hard choices lead to an easier life. 3, take accountability and avoid that victimhood trap. And finally, 4, true success really does come from being genuine. So, I'm going to leave you with a question to think about. What is one hard choice you can make starting today that will help build a better, easier tomorrow for yourself? Now that we've learned the key words and the big ideas, I really encourage you to check out the original video to improve your listening and speaking skills even more. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you got something out of this, please hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and of course, subscribe for more. See you next time.